Hello there, little Frida. Frida Reba Darcy. And one Patricia O'Connor here. I think I'm framed up. I had not planned on doing my Monday drop on Tuesday, but our Sunday drop was pretty popular, and I didn't feel like double stacking a video right on top of that at the time would have been a clean back of that Kodaheim Maple Forest, which I don't think would have been as popular. It was a good video. I'm still planning on shooting that probably next, but I don't think it would have been as popular as what this video turned out to be. And yesterday, it was still accumulating some traction, and to stop that by piling a probably slower video on top of that just didn't quite make that much sense. I thought I would put that off till today, and I'm kind of glad that I did for another reason, because as the day progressed and as people watched the video, I had several people ask me a reoccurring question, and when I thought about the answer, I thought, well, I can quickly mention that when I do my less intensive Kodaheim Maple Forest cleanup. It's basically, I'm going to go through there with tweezers and stuff, and I'm going to clean up some of the stuff, and I'm just going to, neaten everything up. It'll probably be a 15-minute drop. But one, this is a godsend. It's supposed to be raining right now. Instead, it's probably almost 60-ish, 62-ish maybe. If I look on the phone, it might say it's in the 50s. I'm not believing it. I'd say we're probably 62 degrees right now. But one of the questions that I got from people was, let me think, am I skipping anything? No. One of the questions that I got from people was, why did I select now to prune back my cypress trees? We're talking about Sunday's video. This is going to be part 2 of that, because the answer is actually a good answer when you think about it. And also, if I'm honest about it, there might be 2 answers. But here's what. One, it's a conifer, but it's also a deciduous tree. It's one of the few. This one and the dawn redwood are one of the few deciduous conifers. I kind of want to say the only, but somebody will probably know different. I'm not going to say the only like I know that much, but I'm thinking they're the only 2. But anyway, a lot of deciduous trees, the question was, why did I prune it back now instead of spring? I knew that the window to prune back this tree was now. So I could. Now, quick answer between me and my viewers. It seemed like a good time to do that because it was a good time to make a video about that. Now, having said that, there is a better reason to do it now instead of in the spring, which is when we would transplant these. If I were going to transplant these guys, and it wouldn't be the right year to retransplant these because that just happened not too long ago. But if I were going to transplant these, just before the buds swell and break is when I would do that to that cork bark, those 3 cypress trees, and that coastal oak in the back. I would wait till the buds are just starting to break the surface to repot those guys. However, that's not how I would do that for my trident maple. If you let the fluid in the water start running up and down the trunk again and start pruning back the trident maple, it'll bleed all over the place. So, like a deciduous tree, that seemingly might be a concern, but I've never really, truly had a problem with ball cypresses bleeding all over the place. If they do, I just haven't noticed. Maybe somebody else who's watching this can go, well, you've just got lucky, because I see that. But that's not really something that I have to worry about. What I would think about is that you have hormones that during the winter, we're still moving water. I still have to water these cypress trees. But if it doesn't have the foliage, where's all the water going? Well, it's going to build roots. You know, a lot of times that's what deciduous trees are doing in the winter. They're working on their root mass. So you don't have the water exchange going up and down the trunk the way you do, because it's not heading to the leaves to then evaporate out. So that water transfer doesn't happen. But what is happening is all of those hormones that have traveled throughout the year, that were made in the roots and traveled up through the vascular system of the trees, those are auxins. And auxins want to cut off the new growth of the other branches. So in the place, like our tips, like all of the water carried all of the hormones and the auxin, and then when it gets up here to the end, the water sets down its suitcase, which is the hormones and all that other stuff, and then the water goes to the air, leaving its luggage behind. So in our apex and at the tips of our branches, we're going to have high accumulations of auxins, and those try to hold back growth of other limbs. They tell the stuff behind them, be cool. The action is where I am. And that's why new growth wants to continue to grow, and stuff behind it gets cut, gets held back, and you don't get as much back budding. If you want to get back budding, you clip the end and you will knock off that source of auxin, which was going to suppress all of the other future growth. So on some trees, you might wait until they're just starting to bud out. On other trees, if you do that when they're just starting to bud out and you go trimming them back, you're going to get bleed all over the place. This guy, the reason I'm not doing this now on my trident maple is because of this. We are not getting a proper winter change for this trident maple to recognize the winter. I think another viewer saw that and was trying to tell me that my lights had to do with that tree not transitioning. That was truthfully a concern of mine at the first of fall. But the truth is, under those lights with them full up, it did transition into fall colors when the weather changed in October, or excuse me, the end of August. But then in October, when we had a heat spell, it snapped back. And that is also what I'm hearing from my contemporaries in the Bay Area in regards to their maples, and they're not running them under artificial lights. So because I don't need them to be 10/10 right now when the sun is being so orange, they are cut back a stop just because it's not needed. But the sides that are facing the sides of this tree that are more facing the artificial light is part of the side of the tree that's done fine. The part of the tree that was closer to the wall and protected from the wind is the part of the tree that's still green and hadn't died. Plus the weather, we just haven't. I have the other side of this here is in the bay. In about 10 weeks, it'll be spring. It's December, the same week. It's like December 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there right now. And in 8 weeks, stuff will be budding out. So if you're in other parts of the country, I am kind of like in y'all's February right now. If I don't lose those green leaves on my trident maple in the next 10 weeks, my opportunity to prune that back will have come and gone, because the sap hasn't stopped moving in that tree. Not only that, but those green leaves are still resources that the tree is banking up. And if I let it make those things and then cut them off before they have a chance to give back, that weakens the tree. So when it comes to waiting until this thing starts to pre-bud to start trimming it back, the answer to that would be no. It would bleed all over the place. And if it doesn't, give me a couple of weeks where it is absolutely finally has stopped, then I'll just lose my opportunity to prune that back this year. That is not the case with the Trident maples. They have decided lights grow lights. It is because they do well in the south and in warmer places in the northern hemisphere, that a warmer winter they still recognize as winter. So we went to fall and then winter foliage. The traffic up top has stopped. It has stopped moving. It has stopped moving nutrients up and down. Whatever the foliage was going to do in the way of photosynthesis for these trees has now stopped for the year. That opens up the window for me to prune this back. And yes, I can prune this back now, or I can prune this back when I start to see all of these little tiny little bumps start to swell. But now let's discuss something right quick. One, when those tiny buds start to swell, the tree will have already made its decisions as to where it's going to allocate all the bud growth. But if I haven't done any pruning back, that decision is going to be made on the presence of auxin, which we've already determined will prohibit some of that bud growth. If I have already removed that auxin, that first flush of growth should be with less auxin in the system of the tree to hold back some of those bud sites. So I should get more bud sites. When it comes time to do my second flush, I will be doing so with a higher amount of initial flush from the growing season. Having said that, I'm still probably maybe only 6 weeks away until this thing is going to start doing some of that. So that would probably cover why this is a good time to do this now. I can do it now, or I can do it closer to when it buds out. Now, if I were going to transplant any of these trees, yes, I would wait until I begin to see those little ridges start to rise up on the base of this tree to do that. But when it comes to pruning back the branches on a bald cypress, all I really need to wait for is for the traffic in exchange for water up and down the tree to stop. But as you can see, I'm still using my watering cans, and I'm still putting the same amount of water to these trees every day. And all of that water right now is building root mass, and it's not used to travel up and down the tree to maintain foliage or to push out any new growth. So since that had all stopped, that was a good time to do it. And if I do it earlier, then in 5 or 6 weeks from now, when it decides that it's spring again for real, then it will put out more shoots from more places than it would have originally, because it will not have that auxin at the tips of branches and at the apex to prohibit all of that growth. So that is kind of a cypress tree thing. I don't know that I would do that on all my other trees, but I also think that I would do that probably on my Dawn Redwood. It's not a matter of stealing energy that it needs. It's a matter of it no longer needs this. If we cut this now, we're also taking away some of the things that will prohibit more bud sites from growing in the spring. But now, somebody also asked, I also got a very helpful tip. Somebody pointed out, like, sometimes you have some thought in the back of your mind, but you don't really pursue it anymore. And then when somebody else mentions it, you go, duh. Yeah, why didn't that seem so obvious now? Somebody mentioned that when I was talking yesterday and I was pointing out the little bit of curl back that I'd had up here on the bark, they said that if I had done, if you do a more thorough job with your cut paste, you will get better results. And that was a really nice way to put it, I thought. And yes, the second they said that, I knew that they were exactly right. When that started, the tree was up there, and the side that began to curl back was the side that was most exposed to the sun. And I kind of saw that curl back, and I kind of saw the absence of my putty, and I kind of saw a little bit of the situation that we were talking about as a direct result of it blazing in the direct sun, because it was too big for me to rotate, and it used to be sitting right here. So I kind of thought maybe the sun was just kind of cooking down that broke edge and causing it to curl like a piece of wood baking in the sun. But no, that was absolutely right. I had let my that was also right that I had let that dry out. Now, because it's not in the rain, I'm not as concerned about this rotting out. Also, sometimes you see people do things and then other people don't do things, and you might get an idea that it doesn't matter whether you do them or not. You kind of got to put a little thought into why people are or are not doing things. Should I cover that? I think actually I should. Should I cover that and that? Yeah, probably I should. Do I see other very, very knowledgeable bonsai growers not doing that? In the early going, I did, and I took off their lead, but I didn't really think about it. Most of the time when somebody leaves this part exposed, they're wanting it to rot out because they have hollowed out a feature on that tree. They will even encourage that by drilling a hole straight down in an exit wound over here so that they can encourage. I'm not. I just want those both to heal over into two little twin trunk missiles. So curling, putting more cut paste on this edge would definitely, and making sure that whenever growth or the healing edge peels that off, or if the sun bakes it or something, whatever happens that causes that to come back, go back and make sure it stays on there if you want that. Somebody mentioned that, and as soon as they mentioned it, I so knew they were right. What else did I cover that makes this a part two? One other thing. Now, this is kind of a confession too. Sometimes if I'm pruning a tree on video for my program, I won't take it all the way. I'll think to myself, this is a good place to wind this up. And then at the break of the video, and we post, and I go back and I look and I go, why did you stop there? And I went, well, because this was the point where I was about to have to make a decision. Does this stay or does this go? And does this stay or does this go? And I didn't really see the need in taking up your time watching me have that debate and maybe have it go well or not go well. But the part of the debate was also this, and this is a good time to think that I had a couple of different thoughts that you will probably have if you're in this portion of the game. So when this tree was full out in spring, I began to already see the shape and the beauty and the fullness and the basic silhouette of the tree that I want this to be in a few years. And part of me inside started kind of owning those leaders, you know, as going to be protected or whatever. But the truth is, the best way to do this is to constantly be replenishing the leader. This grew very fast. This grew very fast. That is what causes all of this stuff to heal over. Between now and spring, I will probably take this back I will probably take these two leaders back. I mean, I might not use any of the things that I cut for y'all just the other day. But the idea is we needed to start over and shoot up a new leader. When I had it on the rail, I was kind of hoping that I could just let those go for the sky and be 30 feet tall, but they're going to be no higher than the bottom of these lights. And the best way to do this, whether I had the space or not, is to keep making new energy, to make new leaders over. That's where it will more quickly exchange the most water up and down the trunk and bring all the stuff with it and cause all of these things to heal over. So between now and the spring that my concerned viewer was asking me about, I probably will do one chop. And I keep going down here because I do have a little bit of a swell here, and I do have some reverse taper here. So prior to that, down in here somewhere would be a good place to get rid of that, to just get rid of it. If I'm going to chop it anyway, why not there? I could also do it farther down here, and we could really start over, you know, there and there. Like I've done there, and like I've done here, so too will I do here, even though I was already loving the shape of it. What we have to do is keep making those over and over again until we build enough of this and enough of this fattens up, because it keeps rebuilding these. That's basic bonsai. But so one answer to the question was, why were you doing that now instead of in the spring? Well, the other answer was I didn't actually do all that I should be doing. I could have just as easily cut those back, those two trunks back now. I do get to look at them a little while longer, and but they've only got maybe 2.5 months, and I'll cut those back. Hopefully it will become winter here in the next couple of weeks, and the rest of those leaves on there will fall. And what I've been watching about working on my secondary and my tertiary branches on my trident maple will start to come into play. But if I don't think that the water has finally stopped moving up and down the trunk of that tree, I may not get a winter this year when it comes to my trident maple. And no, I'm not concerned about the lights doing that. I have other people in the Bay who are also talking about whether or not they will get a winter or not. So yeah, and they don't like their trees. So that ended up being part 2 of cutback why and why not on my bald cypress trees. It's all about oxen, and no, they don't pull carts. They inhibit growth on other branches. They say, I got mine, you can't get yours. And so if you prune that back, you're opening up the floodgates for more new and cool things to happen. Okay, good example right here. This little guy I was saying earlier, is it that simple? If I cut that tip, will I get back bud? Yes. If I cut it here, I will have killed every reason that this whole thing exists, and possibly nothing else will happen there. But if I cut it there, I will encourage this stuff back here to back bud more. And then with that, I get more branches, and with that, I can cut back more stuff, and then that's how we build back better. If I were to go like here, take the tip out of that, that would promote more back growth. Same here, but also right now I can still encourage stuff to just keep going and keep moving forward, because that also seems like a good thing to do. We just went through some stuff with my coastal oak. Coda maple forest, probably on, we'll try to get our act together and do a proper Wednesday drop. I will revisit the Codaheim forest. It'll be on the bench. I'll be sitting there in front of camera for that one. And we'll clean up the forest a little bit. We might do a little bit of shaping, although I should probably wait till next year to prune that stuff back into a shape. You know, and by shape, I mean, okay, now I'm doing tomorrow's video. So I guess we'll stop it here. I appreciate you, and Frida Reba Darcy appreciates you so much, and like our videos, and thank you for watching.